Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels, and Merry Not So Stupid o'clock to one and all. Now, you may wonder, why am I doing this so early? Well, on a day off, anyways. Because, folks, I am taking advantage of that sweet, sweet, sweet overtime action at my job this afternoon and will for as long as I have the opportunity to do so. Us broke people, when we get offered money like that, well, we just got to take advantage now, don't we? Especially with Christmas coming around, and I still have to pay my brother back for taking me to Halloween kills and buying me lunch. So, we are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we get going, folks, a few of the usual disclaimers, all right? First off, you are going to find the link to this report, the investigative study done by the New York State after the Evelyn and Antoine Nicholson versus the Freeport School District and JRC, right there in the description box, alongside the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, the templates, sign your name, click on your senator. Folks, it really does take less than 2 minutes. We are trying to end adversive therapies, improper restraints and seclusion in schools. Folks, it kills people every year, all right? Also, the ever present self explanatory change.org shut the Judge Rotenberg Center down petition. Now, this video is going to be relatively short because I have an hour before I have to jump on, and I want to get this out there before I do. So, we are starting with findings. Oh, no. When we talk about the Judge Rotenberg Center, trigger warning, you are going to hear vivid descriptions of, as well as see clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you have young children present, please use your headphones. And folks, yes, I am awake, but if I stumble over my words because I'm trying to move too fast, my apologies in advance, all right? All right, so here we go. A review of findings. JRC does not support the implementation of IEP recommended related services and or promote the transition of students to less restrictive settings. We got some interesting tea to spill this afternoon, it looks like. So let's get going here, okay? A review of JRC's internal IEP admission checklist states that staff eliminate, where possible, related service recommendations, such as speech and language therapy or counseling. Wasn't your whole idea to get us to be more normal, JRC? If that is the case, why are we removing speech and language therapy? I know why. You don't want them to talk. You don't want the world to know what they have to say about you. While JRC employs or contracts with some related service providers, documentation showed that JRC takes steps to have CSEs eliminate recommendations for related services. So you do not follow the IEP. Doesn't that violate state law? I'll have to look into it. I would think that would violate state law. Moving on. Student files contain documentation that JRC requests that speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, OT, and counseling be removed from the student's IEP. A review of the IEPs of the New York State students showed 23 students had CSE recommendations for counseling that were later eliminated based on JRC's recommendation. 12 students had IEP recommendations for speech and language therapy that were later eliminated based on the JRC's recommendation. 7 students had IEP recommendations for OT that were later terminated based on the JRD recommendation, and 1 continued OT on a 1 hour per month consult basis. Really? And 4 students had IEP recommendations for PT that were later terminated based on JRC's recommendation. Wow, and you all just went with it? You just went with it in spite of what it said in the IEP. Wow. Did you tell their parents? Hey, parents who defend this place, really? Really? Excuse me. 20 students' current IEPs include recommendations for speech and language therapy. JRC records indicate that 12 students are receiving speech language therapy, with most at a duration or frequency of 1 30-minute mini week, below minimum NYC regulatory requirement. So you're not even following their laws, but you're admitting their students? Really? Hey, California, pay attention. At JRC, behavioral counseling is provided in a non-traditional format at which students are expected to learn how to self-manage their target behaviors. Oh, for fuck's sake! How do you self-manage something that is part of your fucking neurology? They'd be like, well, Tiff, isn't that what you do? To an extent. To an extent, you can self-manage. But the tools we use to self-manage and self-regulate, like flapping, they consider target behaviors to shock you for. So, yeah. Students who request to speak with a psychologist must write a note or business letter requesting a session and pay with their tokens. Are you fucking kidding me? It is literally a part of their IEP, and you really want to use this as a privilege? Let me tell you how much therapy is a privilege. It fucking isn't. It fucking isn't. It is literally necessary to deal with psychological conditions. What the actual fuck? The nature of counseling is unclear. I'm not surprised. What's counseling? You're wrong, do whatever the JRC tells you? Probably. The Director of Clinical Services indicated that other types of counseling could be used, but that it is not routinely offered. Surprise, surprise. Based on classroom observations, there was no evidence that language instruction, as required by NYC regulations for students with autism, was being provided. Can't have us audios talking out now, can we? Out of 148 New York State students at JRC, 128 students received no related services. The provision of related services was not observed during either visitation. Observers did not see a structured, systematic program for teaching of generalization of skills, self-care, social, recreational, or community skills in the school or the residences to assist students in post-secondary transitions, to promote transitions to less restrictive settings. So what you're telling me is they have no transition services whatsoever. Why am I not surprised? See, out here, it's part of my person-centered planning program. We call them CIs, or we used to, which it means community integrators. And as part of my person-centered planning, as developed during the once-a-month planning sessions with my mom, my case manager, and my staff, we would work into the CI time things that I needed to work on. Going out in the community being one, being able to do the grocery shopping without freaking out, being able to manage money properly. Because yes, that took a moment, believe it or not. That did take a minute. Especially when I just got out of high school and the hell out of my aunt's house. I regressed a little bit. I'm not sorry to tell you. And yeah. And transition age services began the minute I hit junior high. I wasn't even diagnosed with autism yet, but I had the ADHD diagnosis, so I qualified for transition services. Part of those transition services was how I was allowed to get my degree by the time I was also simultaneously graduating from high school. Transition age services is what allowed me to transfer so smoothly from assisted living into regular living, and how I am no longer on Medicaid, food stamps, or Social Security today. But the JRC doesn't provide it. Surprise, surprise. Moving on. Observers did not see a. Oh no, we already read that. A student interviewed stated that she had entered JRC at the age of 19 with the expectation that she would receive vocational training while she resolved her emotional and behavioral problems. See, that's how I got into college while in high school, folks. It was the vocational program that my high school offered to either learn a trade or start building college credits. My particular program, graphic arts, by the time I was done, I had earned enough to get my associates in graphic arts. The fact that they have no vocational training programs, something that even public schools, at least out here, have managed to accomplish, that's just sad. Another one of their failings. She had not received any vocational training and still remained in the most restrictive settings offered by JRC. The student wept as she asked the team to bring her back to New York. Records and staff indicate that once placed, very few students transition out of JRC to a less restrictive environment prior to aging out. So what are we to conclude from this morning's brief little video here? Well, it's very simple. The JRC tortures its students, lies to the school districts that send the kids to its school. They provide no counseling, no therapy, no language or speech therapy, and they provide absolutely zero transition services for when these kids age out and go out into the world. One of the biggest things that I had a part of out here in my state was putting together competent transition services for autistics that are getting ready to age out of the school system. It is something Missouri has worked on for years and years and years, and they still have more pilot programs getting ready to be developed and put out there, as well as we've learned from the previous pilot programs and are continuing to improve. Transition services for kids with disabilities and mental health issues are absolutely freaking vital to leading an independent life later on into adulthood. They are indispensable. Absolutely indispensable, okay? Absolutely indispensable. And the fact that the JRC completely ignores what is indicated in IEPs, the fact that they literally have to earn the right to therapy, and the fact that they provide no transition services for kids getting ready to age out of their school at all leaves these kids utterly bankrupt by the time they come out of that school. So not only are they coming out of that school completely traumatized, but they come out of that school completely unprepared to go into the world and start making their own way. This is absolutely criminal. That by itself, regardless of all the other horrific things they are guilty of, that by itself is absolutely criminal. It goes against IDEA, it goes against IEP, it goes against their own local laws for ITP. They are doing absolutely nothing to help these kids get ready for the real world. Nothing. Nothing at all. They don't teach these kids anything. They don't let them have the therapies that they need. They do not let them develop further language skills. They do not allow them to speak out about what's going on in their lives. And they do not allow them any transition services to go out into the real world? None. So somebody tell me, what is the point of this school? And I'll tell you, it's about control and nothing else. It is about control through fear. You see, these folks don't see these kids as kids. They see them as animals to be controlled, not humans who need to be developing the skills now to lead to more successful, independent adult lives. And on that note, folks, I'm going to go ahead and close out for this morning. We don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. The few that we do get to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit that like button. Hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. Feed that algorithm. I do appreciate your time this morning. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Now, maybe on later this evening, I am not sure, doing another live going over the witness testimonies of people who have been at the JRC. We'll just have to see. I got to play it by ear while I'm taking advantage of that sweet overtime. All right. I'll get more out to you as I can. But again, I hope you all have a good one. Have a happy Thanksgiving. And if you think I'm not putting a video on Thanksgiving, think again. All right. Bye, everyone.